We're good.
Thank you. We'll start our meeting now. Appreciate everybody here. If you will, join us for the pledge of allegiance. And yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Louis. Again, we welcome everyone here. There's a couple of items that we're gonna be approving tonight, but I'd like to make a comment. Lauren, correct me if anything, I'm going out of bounds. On March 27th, the Board of Adjustment heard BOA 2024-09 regarding the request for consideration and action on an appeal of a conditional use permit. On April 17th, 2025, the Board of Adjustment rendered a written decision on the matter affirming the decision of the Ogden Valley Planning Commission. I just would like that to be in the record on behalf of ours here. The first item of business is to approve the minutes, and we've missed a couple of approvals. So first, the minutes from the January 23rd, 2025 meeting. Everyone had a chance to review those. If so, would you make them?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, minutes from March 13th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as well.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And then the minutes from the meeting on the 27th. And that was the meeting that I just referenced with the addendum to.
I motion to approve those minutes.
Motion on that. Is there a second? You can.
I'll second.
Or I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. Okay, we'll get to item number 2 tonight, Board of Adjustment 2025-03, consideration of an appeal on a decision made by the Ogden Valley Planning Commission in a public meeting held on April 25th, 2023. To approve the Osprey Ranch Phase 2 subdivision without a road easement between lots 43 and 46, and subject to the county engineer deciding if a connector road in this location is feasible. And our presenter tonight's Felix.
Yes.
You'd like to start us off? What do you think?
So, good evening. So I do have a few slides I'd like to share and then people from there, I think. Some of them, I'd like to run through these slides. I don't want to take too much time, but I also want to give the applicants some time as well. And so here is the slide I have prepared. Just give a general overview, location, and things like that, related matters from the Board of Adjustment process as far as reviewing appeals and making decisions on those. So
Felix, will you speak louder?
yes. So here we have an area map showing shows the parcel boundaries as well as it's overlaid on top of some imagery. You can see that the star indicates the general location of the access point and where it would enter into the MCG property. And the stars actually lies on property that is owned by John Lewis, the developer of the Osprey Ranch Phase 2. And this, going on to the next slide, this is an overlay that I prepared and also included it with the report. It shows the the location that's aligned with the road, where the road was cut in for Osprey Ranch Phase 2. And it shows those two lots, 43 and 46, and that red arrow indicates where that road was suggested by staff to go through as a continuation, maybe even an easement for a road in that location going in that direction between those two lots. And in doing so would abut the MCG property, and it would also allow MCG property access through the Osprey Ranch Phase 2 and through that access easement to their property. And so some of the criteria that we're looking at for an appeal that comes from the county code is the Board of Adjustment shall determine the correctness of the decision of the land use authority, its interpretation and application of land use code and zoning maps. The Board of Adjustment may hear only the decision in which the land use authority has applied. If the land use has applied the land use code or zoning maps to a particular application, person or parcel. The appellant has the burden of proof that the land use authority erred. The appeal, all appeals to the Board of Adjustment shall be filed with the planning division not more than 15 calendar days after the date of written decision of the land use authority. Appeals to the Board of Adjustment shall consist of a review of the record. In cases where there is no record to review, the appeal shall be heard de novo. And so that's really what I had to share. Like I said, it's really quick, just a quick understanding of kind of what the appeal is about and some of the criteria that the board has to make a decision. And that is it. If there's any questions from me, I'd be happy to expound on any details from the staff report, things like that.
So Felix, can you elaborate a little more? This road that was going to go over to the NCG investment property, that was just a stub out, is that correct?
It would, from my understanding, it would have been an easement, simply an easement for a road, a future road. Yeah.
So it wasn't something that adjacent property owner would have been able to access back and forth currently?
Probably not if the road wasn't built, but maybe Charlie has some more detail on that.
Yeah, it's my understanding that it was intended to be a dedicated right of way stepping to the property, to the shared subdivision line, shared with the appellant.
Okay.
Which that could have led to them traversing it back and forth as a public right.
So Felix, can you address this on item number 2 of the notice of decision?
Yes.
It was stricken, at least part of this was stricken out. And then it's in bold, this condition was removed by the planning commission, subject to this condition being looked at by the engineering to see if it was feasible. Can you share some light on that, or Charlie?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, would you?
Of course, yes, please.
Talking about this with the legal advisors earlier today. There was a notice of decision that was made on April 27th, 2023. That notice of decision is verbatim what was in the planning commission minutes, and the planning commission minutes were approved. The notice of decision that was revised, amended, and resent out on June 19th, 2025 has amended language in it. And the reason it has amended language in it is because the the owner that was subdividing said, called county and said, hey, that's not what was in the motion that the planning commission made. It wasn't verbatim what's written in that notice of decision from April 27. Number 2 was not. Planning staff went back and listened to the audio recording to check on what the motion actually was. And that's where we came up with the revised number 2. That shows that there's a little bit more decision-making criteria that the planning commission applied to this, basically saying if the engineer says it's not feasible to stub a road in, then it's not required. Essentially is what the planning commission's verbal discussion was. However, in talking to the deputy civil attorney, he mentioned that making a change to the final written record is probably not something that staff had the authority to do. And so it's entirely within your guys' purview to determine whether or not June 19th, 2025 notice of decision, the amended version was even made correctly. And if it wasn't, then the actual decision, notice of decision was the April 27th, 2023 version. The dates matter because the dates mark from what point an appeal can be by.
Do we have a copy of the April 2023? Yeah, half it.
That should be stapled together. I think we've got a loose leaf. So if you flip the page over.
Is it the addendum exhibit that you sent?
It says exhibit A at the top.
Okay, thank you.
If there's any other questions about
So
that.
Charlie, the April 27th decision, it went to the owner had an access to adjacent property. The language basically that's scratched in the June decision.
Correct. Yeah, it may be worth noting that the language that was in the April 27th, 2023 decision was the language that staff had recommended the planning commission approve. For whatever reason, what they said in the record orally and what got into the written record and voted on, approved by the planning commission were separate things.
So you're saying the planning commission verbally had this provision in there that it was subject to engineering looking at it to see if it was feasible.
Correct.
But somehow the recommendation by planning got put in the record of notice.
Yes,
Decision of notice.
the decision of notice and in the minutes, and the planning commission made a final decision on whether or not those minutes were valid. And so essentially, they affirmed that the April 27th list, April 27th, 2023 list is what they said. So a little bit, they may not have been reading very closely. I can't tell you why it's different. I just know it is different. We go off of the final written
Why did
record.
this come out 2 years later?
I believe the subdivider of the land adjacent to the appellants, I believe that they submitted an application. We mentioned that there's a requirement to put a road in. We as the staff made a comment, there's a requirement to put a road in based off of the decision. And they said that's not what the decision was. You can go back and listen to the record. So that's kind of how the subject came up, and that's when the revised notice of decision was issued.
Clarify who you're saying said this, or who inquired about this.
So the developer of the property adjacent to the applicant,
Okay,
or to the appellant.
so the MGC.
No, it's the Osprey
Osprey
Ranch
Ranch.
developer. Yeah, you're right, using too many pronouns. So the Osprey Ranch developer filed for subdivision phase 2. And at that time, it was flagged that they need to put a road in. They weren't showing a road there. The response that we received back from them was go back and reread the planning, or go back and re-listen to the planning commission decision. It was different than what was in the final written decision from April 27th, 2023. That's when we looked at that, said, oh, it is different, and reissued a different notice of decision on June 19th, 2025. That's the decision that the appellant is appealing off of, so they received the notice of decision shortly after June 19th, 2025. Filed an appeal within that appeal period, and that's why we're here today.
Okay, and the reason for the 2-year lapse is that the developer wasn't in phase 2 that even brought this to the forefront.
Correct.
Board, do you have questions for Charlie or Felix? Okay, Felix, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
For purpose of this meeting, we would ask that the appellant would, if they would like to, they can approach the podium and present your case. Thank you.
We will do that. Thank you very much.
If you will, introduce yourself on the mic for record, state your name and address.
Certainly. My name is Robert Mansfield. I'm legal counsel for MCG Investments. My address is 9 East Exchange Place in Salt Lake City.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and appreciate your time and attention. And that, well, the colloquy that just occurred really is the root of the issue here. Back in 2023, when the April 27th notice of decision came out, that was based on a recommendation from staff. The staff report recommended that the access point be put in between lots 43 and 46 to provide connectivity to the MCG investment property. We have no problem with this notice of decision. We think that's appropriate, and that followed in accordance.
Which one are you?
Excuse me, the April 27, 2023 notice of decision. We think that is appropriate, and that follows the Weaver County code, which requires that access be provided to other adjacent undeveloped lands. So as Felix mentioned, the role here of the Board of Adjustment is to determine whether the Planning Commission's action was or was not correct, whether they did err. And we believe they did err. The 2025 notice of decision, again, is virtually identical to the April 27 notice of decision, with the exception that in item number 2, where it says an access to adjacent property to the east of lot 43 shall be provided and shown on the plat between lot 43 and 46 was struck out and the additional language was added. What we think happened is really, the Planning Commission got it backwards. What they should have done, if there's an issue as to feasibility, and the issue of feasibility was not raised until the June 2025 meeting. Planning Commission meeting. Prior to that, the parties seemed to be in harmony that this road was feasible and should be put into place. And the striking out of condition number 2 is why we're here on this appeal today. As mentioned, this appeal was timely filed to be before the Board of Adjustment. Now, the Weber County Code that addresses the situation is section 106-2-1.010. And it says a subdivision shall be designed to follow the street configuration requirements herein and elsewhere in this land use code. Where this code allows an applicant flexibility on street location or configuration, that flexibility shall not be construed to relieve the applicant from requirements of this section. And reading down, in subsection A, right below that, general street configuration and alignment. Number 2, A2 states provide for the continuation of new streets into adjoining undeveloped land. And that's what we have here between lots 43 and 46. Number 4, not avoid the requirements of this section by shifting the responsibility of providing a street onto landowners of adjacent undeveloped or underdeveloped parcels. And 5, not create an unnecessary hardship to providing street connections on or to other parcels in the general areas deemed appropriate by the Land Use Authority. Now, one of the big issues that came about during the June 2025 Planning Commission meeting is, has county engineering looked at this and studied this issue on feasibility? And although the opposition that was filed yesterday states that this has been looked at by engineering, it has not. At no time has county engineering looked at this and determined it is or is not feasible. That simply hasn't been done. Now, if the planning commission thought it was necessary in order to have engineering look at the feasibility of this, they should have left number 2 as it was, not struck out that provision and said, although we desire that engineering look at this to determine the feasibility, we think they got it backwards. You don't take it out and determine whether it's feasible, you leave it in. And if it's determined to be unfeasible, then that requirement may be avoided. If engineering makes that determination, but that hasn't been done. Now, all of this started, and this is all in your packet. The Osprey Ranch subdivision started in 22 with phase 1. One of the representatives of my client, Mr. Green, appeared and spoke at this meeting. And he states, this is from the August 2nd, 2022 minutes of the Planning Commission. Looking forward to phase 2 of the project, access will be impacted significantly. And it is also important that his family have the ability to connect to necessary infrastructure in the area. He highlighted the existing access points to the property and the point that he believes to be the natural connection point for sewer. He wants the commission to be aware of these issues when they are making their decision on this application and future phases of development. And then just a few moments after that, at the bottom of that page, and this is page 6 of those meeting minutes, Mr. Shane Dunleavy, who was there representing the applicant, Osprey Ranch, in response to Mr. Green's comments, states he then addressed Mr. Green's comments about his family's property. He has been in discussions with them and plans to help them preserve their access or provide new access points in the future with development of phase 2 of the project. Everybody was on board with this. There wasn't an issue with that. Then in 2023, and if you look at the minutes from April 25th of 2023, and that preceded the April 27, 2023 notice of decision. Again, and this is staff, and I'm planner, and I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce the name. Idalot. Thank you. Says, she concluded staff recommends that the planning commission grant preliminary approval of the Osprey Ranch subdivision phase 2 based on all review agency requirements and on the following conditions that will need to be met before the planning commission considered recommending approval of the final plat. Number 2 was an access to adjacent property to the east of lot 43 shall be provided and shown on the plat between lot 43 and 46. This was the recommendation of staff in accordance with the Weber County Code that I just read. Going on page 2 of those minutes, this Adalot then stated that the property fronts a major connector road and staff feels the development to the east, that's the MCG property, should be entitled to connect to it when it develops. Commissioner Johnson asked if engineering has reviewed this application, to which Ms. Adalot answered no. And then going on, that condition of approval number 2, that's the access between lots 43 and 46, will be reviewed by engineering and could be removed if they deem it unnecessary to require the connection. That is what should have happened. The requirement should have remained on the plat to show the access easement, then subject to engineering looking at that and determining whether it is or is not feasible, rather than eliminating it and then determining whether it could be done. And we think that was inappropriate to do. And then based thereon, the notice of decision from April 27th, 23 was sent out which included the requirement that the plat show the access between lots 46 and 43, as was stated. These minutes were approved. And they've been in around for over 2 years now before anything further happened. Over 2 years, they sat there. This was sent out to the applicant, to Osprey Ranch, to my clients. It was posted in accordance with law. No one objected to this. Not a single objection was raised until nearly 2 years later. Then finally, in the June 2025 Planning Commission meeting, that requirement was removed as set forth in the June 2025 notice of decision. Now, the June 2025 meeting was not a public meeting, and my client was not provided an opportunity to speak. So they weren't able to get up and rebut some of the comments that were being made. One of the issues was a question about access. If you can you, thank you, Digger.
It actually did, maybe you can just.
How do you do it? You know, I just kind of want it right over there.
You want to show the access?
Yeah, let me, one of the access points that was suggested could be used for the MCG property is right at the bottom corner of the black box, the Shreve access is what has been referred to. If you look though, at the property, at the, and again, this does not have contour lines on it, so we can't see it. There is no way from that access or any other access point that you could get to the top of the MCG investment property that abuts the Osprey Ranch development. It would be virtually landlocked. I mean, it would be too steep to put it in a road for development or for developability to provide access for homes. You can get up there with a four-wheeler or a horse, but there's no way you can get up to the majority of that property where you see the label MCG investment property from anywhere else on the MCG investment property. The only way to do it is through the connector road between lots, as well staff recommended, between lots 43 and 46. No other access roads are sufficient for development. There's also some talk that the property on which the proposed access was to be located between lots 43 and 46 was too steep. No engineering analysis has said, we believe it isn't too steep. It could easily be done. And in fact, Mr. Lewis with Osprey Ranch was trying to buy the property from MCG Investments. This is exactly where he proposed putting the road if he was going to buy the property. It wasn't until after MCG decided not to sell the property to Osprey that all of a sudden that road became a problem. They weren't going to put it in. That's not an appropriate basis to do that. Now, again, we think the note of the 2025 notice of decision that removed the number 2 requirement was improper. That should have been left in accordance with the 2023 notice of decision. If they wanted to add a requirement that engineering needed to look at that to determine whether it was feasible, I think that's appropriate. They should be doing that, but it was improper and it was error to remove that condition. The April 27th, 2023 notice of decision was approved as part of the minutes. And it's appropriate that it remains intact as it is. Now, we also received the opposition yesterday from Osprey Ranch. And we submitted a response to that this morning. That should have been put in your packet for your review. There's a number of misstatements of law, in fact, in that opposition that we have addressed it in there. The one thing that I find troubling is they now say that lots 43 and 46 have been removed from the preliminary plat. They're no longer going to do those lots. And therefore this appeal is now moved. One, I think that's bad faith. They can't remove it without the planning commission approval, which has not yet been done. But even if lots 43 and 46 are eliminated, the Weber County Code that I read to you, 16-2-1 .010 would still require the street access because this property is still being developed. When you submit an application for plat approval for development of property, you are required to follow the requirements of 106-2-1, which would require putting in the street to the undeveloped property. So even if they do want to withdraw lots 43 and 46, they still have to put in the road. The Weber County Code would still require that. But that had, as far as I know, we've seen nothing that's actually been done. And we think it's inappropriate. There's also been talk that this would, in the opposition, that this would constitute an exaction and would violate the Fifth Amendment, the takings clause to the United States Constitution. I'm not aware of any case that would require that, not a single one. This happens all the time, that these connection roads are required. We don't think it's appropriate to remove the condition unless or until engineering, county engineering comes up and says that is completely unfeasible. That's the only way it should be removed. We think the planning commission erred. We'd ask that this body correct that error and require that the condition remain as it is. That the condition for access through lots 43 and 46 remain. And that only if engineering comes in and says it's unfeasible, can that then be reevaluated to determine whether it should come out. Do any of you have any questions of me?
Thank you, Mr. Mansfield. Is there questions for Mr. Mansfield at this time? We may call you back.
Please do.
Thank you. Before we call another Charlie, would you address a couple of things for us?
Happy to.
This code 106-2- or .010. Is that statute, is that state law, or is that just a code of the counties?
County version.
County ordinance? And is that practiced commonly?
Yes, it is.
So also address, if you will, I don't think we have anybody from engineering here tonight, do we? Has engineering looked at this? We just heard from Mr. Mansfield that they have not. Do you know if they've looked at it?
I'd like that answer.
Engineering did issue a statement to the developer of Osprey Ranch. I'm not sure if that was included in the packet or not.
I have not seen that. That's not in the record. I wasn't aware of that if that was done.
But it has been there.
Tammy?
It has been looked at. I don't know what I can and can't present to you if it wasn't part of the packet, but it was sent over to the developer for Osprey.
Okay, so Tammy, I don't think it's in our packet tonight, is it?
Okay. I'm not sure, Felix, I didn't put together the packet.
Okay, all right. So at least that answers that. Thank you, Chair. Is there a representative here from Osprey Ranch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Adjustment, my name is Bruce Beard, I'm counsel for Osprey Ranch. Thank you, I appreciate being allowed to participate. Just to be clear, my clients are the real parties in interest and they have a lot at stake here. So I've done this dozens and dozens of times and the real party has always been allowed to make a presentation. So I appreciate you giving me that. I want to make clear a couple things.
Mr. Baird,
Yes.
pardon the interruption.
2150 South,
Sorry.
1300 Suite 500 Salt Lake City. It's my fault, I apologize.
Sorry, I should have asked. you.
No,
That's
it's my
okay.
fault, Chairman.
2150 South.
1300 East, Suite
Thank you.
500.
Thank you.
I want to make a couple of clarifications to what Mr. Mansfield said. And a couple of factual clarifications, and then I'm going to suggest an easy way out for all of us here. Because what we have here is a mess. I'm going to suggest a solution for the mess that resets the mess. First, Mr. Mansfield said that the June meeting was not a public meeting. He's incorrect in that. It was a public meeting, it was not a public hearing. I do not know whether his clients got notice about that. I just want to correct it. That it was by definition a public meeting. So assuming his clients had known about it, which I don't say whether they did or not, they could have tried to participate the same way I'm trying to participate now. Second, a large part of what Mr. Mansfield talked about, including the slopes, the attempt to purchase, et cetera, is not in the record. So, I mean, I thought it was ironic that Mr. Mansfield objected to my presentation, claiming it wasn't in the record, and then spent something like 15 minutes talking about things that aren't in the record either. So let me make a clarification. I actually went back and listened to the entire April Planning Commission meeting. There was discussion, contrary to what Mr. Mansfield said, and that actually contradicted himself. So there was no discussion about their secondary access, but there was discussion. There was discussion between, I think, minutes 8 and 13, and between tape 38 and 45 when the motion was made about this very subject. But it doesn't matter because a preliminary approval, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I know, it's preliminary, so it can be fixed at a final meeting. There's no need to go back and correct the minutes from April of last time. And that's where the problem is. And this is one of the rare things I'm going to agree with Mr. Mansfield on this. And Rob and I have known each other for a long time. We've worked on the same sides of cases. What you have here is a confusing issue. We don't know whether there's an engineering statement. The statement actually says we haven't made a decision yet. I can tell you that just as a matter of candor. It says we need to look at this and we haven't made a decision. And that's exactly what my letter says, is that they haven't made a decision. And so we're in this way premature. And we're also premature on this appeal because we're talking about the wrong thing. As Charlie pointed out, whether staff should have issued a modified decision or not, or whether the planning commission should have issued a modified decision, we've got a mess. There's a simple, easy answer for this. Remand it back to the planning commission with the instructions as follows. Do it right this time. Give everybody an opportunity, have engineering address the issue. We'll come back, we'll talk about it. Mr. Mansfield will be there to present to the planning commission as to why the access needs to be done. I can present an argument why it doesn't need to be done under the statute, and we can get you a complete record so that when you get an appeal from either side, we don't have a procedural mess up. I don't know why that's not the simplest thing to do. I'm happy to address all of the issues if you want to. We believe it creates an unnecessary hardship because it's multiple connections. We believe it's going to be unfeasible. We believe it's untimely. I could address all of those things and we would ask you to sustain the planning commission decision. But if it's okay with you, my suggestion would be I sit down, shut up, and you decide if you want to send it back to the planning commission or you want to hear from me on the substance, because it makes a lot more sense to me to do this right the first time. Because I always look at it, what'll happen if somebody goes to court on this? And if we go to a judge on this, the judge is going to look at it and goes, why didn't you guys do it right and send it back? Anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions you want. I'm happy to give you my full presentation, or I'm happy to sit down and let you figure out if you want to send it back on remand, which is the simplest issue. And I guarantee you have the legal authority to send it back.
So, Mr. Barrett?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
If you will, are there questions for Mr. Barrett at this moment? Would anybody like to hear his entire presentation? Lauren, as our legal counsel, as I understand it, we had an appeal to a decision presented before us that we need to decide upon. I don't think it's our role to send it back.
Sorry, first of all, I do want to remind you, we can go into a closed session if you want to discuss this more. But yes, this is a little bit complicated. It's almost two parts of an issue. So I would recommend we go into a closed session to talk about it.
I'm happy with that, Mr. Chairman. I can tell you before you do that, I've done dozens and dozens and dozens of these boards of adjustment things. And I can't count the number of times that the Board of Adjustment said, we're remanding it. I'm in the middle of one right now where the Board of Adjustment said, we're remanding it to get it right.
Thank you.
But we're happy to let you go to a closed session. We don't care.
Would you like to present more?
No, I don't believe I have any more to present, because what I've said is it's premature. Mr. Mansfield is incorrect. It's partly premature for two reasons. We're not recorded lots 43 and 46. So the issue of a showing on the plat an easement across 43 and 46 is moot because we're not going to record it. And we have approval. We have discussions with the county staff and the county attorney's office telling us we can record this plat without 43 and 46. So a condition saying that you have to put an easement across lots 43 and 46 is, what's the word I'm looking for? Moot, because there is no lot 43 and lot 46 in the subdivision anymore once we record it. That's a completely different legal issue, and I will acknowledge Mr. Mansfield may have just heard about that a few minutes ago, yesterday, and may not know about it. That's another reason it should go back to the planning commission, and we'll present it without 43 and 46.
Is it fair to say though, regardless whether 43 or 46 are there, that that's the approximate location of the proposed road?
That's the approximate location that they want it to be a road, and we don't believe it should be a road for the reasons that I've articulated in my letter. That it's an unreasonable hardship on the developer. You can't make us connect to every single property, that they have multiple other accesses to their property, that we don't have to make each individual portion of their property developable. They have two accesses now, just because one of the parts of their property are blocked off with topo, as they've admitted, doesn't mean we have to access that portion if they have access to the rest of the lots on their own, which they clearly do. They have at least one, if not two accesses. They may not have access to this particular portion of the property, but that's not the same thing as accessing the property. And then there's a difference between accessing and connecting. And what I'm suggesting is we may have a responsibility for connection, assuming it's feasible. We don't have a responsibility to provide access to each and every portion of their property. So those are our arguments. I think I've articulated them in the brief, but again, send it back, please.
Okay, any other comments from Mr. Larry? A question?
If you guys aren't going to record those two lots, what happens to that portion of the property?
Come back, and if we have to subdivide them later, we'll subdivide them later. And at that time, if they want access to that, we can fight about it at that point. It's quite common, Mr. McGonigal, when you have multiple phases of a project and there is a connectivity requirement, there's no requirement of the timing to develop those particular later phases, and that happens quite often. That the later phases, which would provide connectivity, are left to be later.
I just had a question for you. So being from Western Weaver County.
The flat part.
I'm fairly, well, mosquitoes carry you out. I'm kind of familiar with the Upper Valley. I'm trying to get a good idea of where this property is we're talking about. I should have asked it earlier in the session.
I'll let the staff zoom out on their screen. Charlie, you want to take over? Charlie.
Whereas Charlie can, simplify it for me, bigger.
Charlie's the wizard.
By Nordic or
Mr.
somewhere.
Decker. I don't play well with Max, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah,
I appreciate it. They answered for me. So I kind of don't know where.
okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Then I'll sit down unless you have anything else for me.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go on, Mr. Mansfield, is there any rebuttal you would like?
Yes, it is not appropriate to do, I don't know that you can do a remand. Your job here is to determine whether the planning commission did or did not err. That doesn't mean they can't go back and seek another planning commission or further review. But I don't believe you have the authority to remand this and direct them to do X, Y, and Z. Your job is to say, was this an error or was it not an error?
Any other comments?
No, I think that would address.
Okay, is there, I think our, if there's a motion to discuss this. Yes.
Like to make a motion to move to a closed session for their response.
Is there a second? I can second that. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. I will return.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Welcome back. Is there a motion to reconvene?
I motion to reconvene the meeting, public meeting.
Is there a second? Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, pertaining to the matter before us tonight, is there a motion?
I will make a motion to take under advisement the situation at the top. Let's see that properly.
I'm not sure. Lauren, is that okay?
That's right.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Motion to take this under advisement and there is a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other business tonight, Charlie?
I'll see you later.
We have listed on the agenda.
Okay, nothing else from you? Okay, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Hopefully you get cleaned up today.
Right.